62 BBY. New Tiana, the cold orbital refuge above a dying world. A newborn's cry joins millions in a station of steel and shadows. The Duros built this place to escape their poisoned planet, but not all lived in safety. In the depths of the Descent Ghetto, the Bane family scraped by among gangs, rust, and despair. Here, crime flourished, while lawmen looked the other way, and survival was bought with credits or blood. Young Cad watched it all with unblinking, crimson eyes, criminals growing fat while neighbors died in crossfire, enforcers cracking down with equal cruelty. He hated both sides, swearing he would never be another nameless body on a ghetto street. He learned fast. The law could be played, criminals could be used, and violence could be turned into a weapon of profit. The shadows whispered his future long before he wore his wide-brimmed hat or drew his first blaster. In the furnace of neglect, Cad Bane was forged not as victim, not as hero, but as a predator who would rise above the station's decay. Even in the cradle of squalor, he already carried the hunger that would one day terrify the galaxy. The streets of Nar Shaddaa whispered with danger, but Cad Bane walked them like a stage. He had learned that a hunter was more than his aim. He was a persona, a symbol to be feared. The wide-brimmed hat, the cloak, the gunslinger stance, all theater, all part of a duel before the first blaster bolt flew. Beneath that dusty look hid weapons worthy of Mandalorians. Wrist launchers, flamethrowers, darts, stun tech, and the subtle lift of rocket boots. No heavy armor to betray him, only the illusion of a simple outlaw. The breathing tubes sealed to his face weren't just for spacewalks, they were protection against poison, smoke, even the crushing grip of a Jedi's force choke. Endurance and survival became his creed. On Nar Shaddaa, his skills drew the attention of a red-skinned force wielder named Maul. The contract: steal a Jedi Padawan from a cartel auction. With Aurra Sing and others at his side, Bane stepped into the game. A man who trusted neither Jedi nor Sith but knew the value of credits and reputation. While Maul's dark hunger for blood grew, Cad Bane stayed calm, calculating, always ready to outdraw any fool who mistook him for less than the deadliest gun in the galaxy. The underworld gathered in a cartel hall where shadows and fortune intertwined. Criminals, slavers, and syndicate lords circled the stage, waiting for the prize, a captured Jedi Padawan. Cad Bane moved among them like he belonged, his sharp eyes taking note of exits, guards, and weakness. Beside him, Aurra Sing bristled, wary of their client. Maul, red-skinned and silent, radiated menace that unsettled even hardened hunters. Bane leaned close, voice low and calm, reminding her that suspicion was a shield. He knew this job reeked of betrayal, and yet credits demanded risk. When the auctioneer revealed the prize, tension crackled. Trandoshans sneered, Zygarians boasted, and new droid models rolled across the floor, their power advertised as casually as slaves. Maul slipped away, driven by his thirst for Jedi blood, while Bane played the game of appearances. He smirked at rivals, insulted Trandoshans to keep them cautious, and let others underestimate him. In truth, he was already planning how to strike. The Padawan was bait, the cartel a trap, and the red-skinned sorcerer an unknown danger. But Cad Bane thrived where chaos reigned, and as the bids climbed higher, he rested his hand near his pistols, ready for the storm to break. The hunters regrouped aboard the captured ship, the air thick with tension. Maul had torn through lowlifes in a cantina with savage precision, his hunger for Jedi blood impossible to ignore. Bane reclined in his chair, boots on the table, unshaken by the Sith's violence. Aurra Sing questioned the plan, her voice edged with doubt, but Bane's reply was cold wisdom. Trust, suspicion, expect betrayal. He suspected Maul might have hired them as pawns, not partners. Still, he knew when to bide his time. Maul tortured a droid for information, plucking out its eyes until it revealed the Padawan's location. To Bane, the screams of machines mattered little. What mattered was the path ahead. The auction lay deep in lawless space, crawling with syndicate power. He saw opportunity not just for credits but for reputation, the kind of stage a legend is built on. Calmly, he lit a cigarillo, smoke curling as he weighed the odds. Jedi, Sith, or cartel, he didn't care. If Maul wanted blood and the syndicate wanted credits, then Cad Bane wanted only one thing: to walk away richer, feared, and alive. The cartel's auction chamber blazed with decadence. Criminal magnates, slavers, and mercenaries filled the hall, their greed reflecting in every bid. At the center, a hologram of the Jedi Padawan flickered, her fate decided by whoever offered the highest credits. Bane stayed sharp, scanning the crowd. He traded barbs with Trandoshans, each insult calculated to keep them off balance. Aurra Sing's unease grew, but Bane's tone was steady, reassuring in its cynicism. Maul, meanwhile, drifted through the shadows, already hunting. The Zygarians, flush with wealth and malice, were favorites to win, their obsession with capturing Jedi making them dangerous. When the gavel fell and the Padawan was theirs, Maul struck. The Sith descended with ruthless fury, crushing slavers in moments. Blaster bolts filled the air, sabers flashed, and chaos ignited. Bane drew no fear, only calculation. He let the Force wielders clash, his hand hovering near his blasters, waiting for his moment. In the whirlwind of bloodlust and greed, Cad Bane remained the constant, calm, patient, a predator poised to strike when profit and survival aligned. The Zygarian ship was ambushed before it could flee, Cad Bane leading the strike. Silent as death, he cut through the crew with a vibroblade, his precision a gunslinger's poetry. Behind him, chaos erupted, Maul choking slavers with his cloak, crushing them with invisible power. Bane ignored the theatrics. For him, efficiency was the art. His rocket boots ignited, lifting him above the fray as smoke grenades cloaked his movements. From above, his blaster spat fire, each shot perfectly placed. Aurra Sing's sniper bolts cracked from the shadows, while their allies carved through resistance. Together they seized control, the Padawan their prize. Yet Bane's calm never wavered. He knew Maul's thirst was not for ransom but slaughter, and that made him more dangerous than any syndicate. As the engines groaned and explosions rocked the ship, Bane kept his composure. Where others saw chaos, he saw patterns, openings, survival. And when Maul claimed his kill, savoring the blood of a Jedi, Cad Bane stood aside, content. The Duros didn't need the glory. His legend was in surviving every storm, walking away richer while others burned. The cartel's trap was sprung, an explosion ripped through the engines, hurling the ship toward a crash on a desolate moon. Syndicate warships closed in, eager to claim the prize. Amid the chaos, Bane was unmoved. He lit another smoke charge, vanishing into the haze, and used his rocket boots to scout ahead. Sing sniped from cover, Rodilio clashed with blades, while Maul carved through slavers like a beast unchained. Bane lured a Trandoshan captain into a duel, his hand hovering near his pistols. The hunter's swagger provoked the reptile's pride, and when the draw came, Bane's blasters sang first. The Trandoshan fell, ego shattered in a single bolt. Above, Bane rained fire on defenders, clearing the way for his crew. Sing seized a nearby ship while Bane cut down lizard guards, each move precise, calculated. Even Maul looked back, surprised to see the Duros return when he could have fled. To Bane, loyalty wasn't sentiment, it was reputation. A hunter who delivered was a hunter paid. And so, through fire and betrayal, he stayed the course. His calm, deadlier than any lightsaber. The hunt spilled onto the moon's scarred surface. Syndicate vessels descended, unleashing waves of killers. Maul and the Jedi Padawan drew fire, sabers clashing in a storm of light, while Cad Bane stalked shadows with cold precision. He used the chaos to his advantage, baiting foes into overconfidence, drawing them into traps, striking with surgical speed. Rocket boots flared as he flanked enemies, smoke curling around his silhouette like a phantom gunslinger. Aurra Sing commandeered a ship, its engines roaring as she prepared for escape. Still, Bane remembered their client's demand. No rival hunters could leave alive. He obliged with ruthless efficiency, blasting ships from the sky, scuttling vessels until the battlefield was littered with wreckage. By the end, Maul stood bloodstained but victorious, his thirst for Jedi slaughter briefly quenched. Bane, unshaken, simply leaned back against the captured ship, arms folded, crimson eyes unblinking. He didn't need theatrics. He had proven what mattered most, that when Jedi, Sith, and syndicates alike lost themselves to rage or greed, Cad Bane remained calm. The Duros walked away richer, colder, and more feared than ever. The captured protocol droid shrieked as Maul plucked out its eyes, the sound metallic yet filled with panic. At last, it revealed the hidden truth. The cartel auction was real. Bane watched without flinching, smoke drifting from his cigarillo. The galaxy was cruel, and even machines bled in their way. With the intel secured, the team moved beyond Republic space into lawless sectors where Jedi influence ended and Syndicate rule began. Aurra Sing fretted aloud, suspicion gnawing at her, but Bane's reply was calm, cutting. Suspicion was survival. To him, the hunt was simple. Take the job, get paid, live another day. The others may have followed Maul's thirst for slaughter or Sing's paranoia, but Bane held to his creed. As the ship glided into the Dracul system, stars burning cold around them, the hunters knew the stage was set. Syndicates would gather, fortunes would shift, and a Jedi Padawan's fate would hang on greed. Bane leaned back, hat tilted low, already calculating. In this bloody theater, the Duros was neither slave nor zealot. He was the player who knew when to strike. The hunters studied the cartel floor with predators' patience. Trandoshans hissed, Zygarians preened, and smugglers boasted over the Padawan prize. Bane, leaning on a rail, predicted the outcome with uncanny certainty. The Zygarian slavers would win. They had the credits, the obsession, and the arrogance. That arrogance would be their undoing. When the auction ended in their favor, Bane led the ambush. He struck silently, slipping aboard their ship like a phantom. A vibro blade gleamed in his hands. Cleaner than a blaster, crueler in its intimacy. One by one, crewmen fell. Their last sights, the cold glow of his crimson eyes. The Zygarians celebrated their victory below, never knowing the trap had already been sprung. On the auction floor, Maul moved in his own frenzy, cloak swirling as he cut down slavers with invisible power. Bane spared no glance. He had no interest in theatrics. He moved with cold precision, leaving blood and silence in his wake, his path already clearing toward the credits and the prize. For the galaxy's best hunter, prediction was as lethal as the blaster on his hip. Screams echoed as Maul crushed the Zygarian victors with invisible hands, snapping bones as if they were glass. His cloak writhed like a serpent, strangling the life from slavers who only moments before were triumphant. Bane stood off to the side, arms crossed, unbothered by the carnage. He weighed the odds, the payday, the risks, the exits. Where Maul's rage was fire, Bane's calm was ice. He noted every passageway, every vessel that could serve as escape. He considered if the credits would even come, or if Maul's madness would doom them all. Aurra Sing's eyes darted nervously, but Bane's remained still, unflinching. To him, this was the lesson of survival. Never let passion blind calculation. As Maul interrogated the Padawan with venomous intensity, Bane checked his weapons with quiet ritual. The Sith's obsession with blood and the Jedi's futile resistance mattered little to him. What mattered was walking away alive, with his legend intact and his reputation sharpened by yet another impossible job survived. The ship shuddered as explosions ripped through the engines. Sabotage. Smoke filled the corridors, alarms screaming as the vessel spiraled toward a desolate moon. Cartel vengeance had found them. Yet Bane's composure never cracked. As Maul seethed and the Padawan clutched her chains, the Duros merely adjusted his breathing tubes and muttered about payment. To him, crashes were just another variable in the hunt. The ship tore through the atmosphere, slamming into the barren surface below. Dust clouds rose, wreckage burning in the distance. Above them, cartel ships descended like vultures, eager to claim the prize. Maul ordered the Jedi to run with him, a lure for their enemies, while the hunters were tasked with stealing a ship and destroying the rest. Bane accepted with a nod, no argument, no hesitation. He had been in worse odds and walked away. As the ground quaked beneath the descending war machines, he checked his pistols, smoke curling around his hat. For Cad Bane, even catastrophe was just another stage. The hunt began. Syndicate forces poured across the moon's jagged terrain, blasters flashing. Bane strode forward, calm amid the chaos. With a crooked smile, he baited the Trandoshan raiding party, taunting them until pride clouded their judgment. Their leader demanded a duel, one-on-one, the galaxy's deadliest quick draw against reptilian bravado. The challenge ended in a single heartbeat, Bane's pistols firing faster than thought. The Trandoshan fell, ego shattered along with his body. Above, Bane's rocket boots ignited, lifting him into the smoke-choked air. From the sky, he rained blaster fire, smoke grenades cloaking his advance. Aurra Sing's sniper bolts cracked, Bordelio's blades flashed, and together the hunters cut their way to the transports. Sing seized a Weequay vessel, its saucer frame gleaming in the moonlight. Bane scouted ahead, blasting guards and sowing panic, his movements sharp and merciless. As the transports fell into their hands, Bane reminded the others of the client's command: destroy the rival ships. He could have left, but he returned, true to the contract. Even Maul, dripping with bloodlust, was surprised. For Cad Bane, survival was not just living, it was reputation, and reputation paid. The hunters regrouped after the moon battle, and Cad Bane did what many thought impossible. He followed the client's orders to the letter. Rival hunting ships were targeted, disabled, and destroyed. Even when escape was within his grasp, Bane returned to finish the task. Maul noticed. For the first time, the Sith gave a subtle nod of approval. Aurra Sing exchanged a wary glance, knowing what it meant to earn favor from a creature like Maul. But Bane didn't bask in praise. To him, loyalty wasn't flattery, it was reputation. And reputation was currency. As the wreckage burned across the sky, he holstered his pistols, his crimson eyes unblinking. He had shown that credits bought obedience, and obedience bought survival. In that moment, Maul found a hunter whose cold efficiency matched Sith ambition, while Bane quietly marked another scar of legend onto his name. The galaxy edged toward war, and in those restless years, Bane often crossed paths with Jango Fett. The Mandalorian was the gold standard, a hunter whose name commanded both fear and respect. Young Boba Fett, eager and wide-eyed, watched from the shadows, idolizing men like Bane. Around campfires and in seedy cantinas, stories of Cad's duels carried weight, tales that young Fett absorbed like scripture. Bane knew the boy's gaze, but he offered no mentorship, only the cold reminder that admiration meant nothing in their line of work. Still, destiny tied them together, and whispers grew that one day the Duros and the Mandalorian son would clash not as allies, but as rivals for the same crown. Among the credits and shadows, Bane secured a new companion, Todo 360. The droid was more than a servant. He was a slicer, pilot, and assistant crafted for a hunter's needs. Small, practical, and irritatingly talkative, Todo could crack security grids, pilot a ship through crossfire, or squeeze into vents where blasters couldn't reach. To Bane, the droid was both tool and liability. He mocked him, threatened him, even planted explosives as a cruel failsafe. Yet Todo stayed, loyal and efficient. In the Duros' silent way, he respected the machine not with praise, but with use. Every mission proved that behind Cad Bane's theatrics stood invisible gears, each one part of the legend he was forging. Geonosis, 22 BBY. The galaxy erupted into war. Jedi clashed with droids, and in the chaos, Jango Fett fell, slain by a Jedi's blade. His death carved a void, and Cad Bane filled it. No longer overshadowed, he emerged as the new apex predator of the underworld. The Clone Wars meant contracts worth millions, not from thugs or petty syndicates, but from galactic powers themselves. Each battle swelled his reputation. While clones marched under banners and Jedi became generals, Bane answered to no flag. He was loyal only to credits, and credits poured in like blood into sand. From the ashes of Geonosis, the Duros hunter's legend burned brighter. His name carried across cantinas and warfronts as the one who replaced Jango. 21 BBY. On Coruscant, Darth Sidious extended his hand, and Bane accepted. The job: infiltrate the Jedi Temple itself. Payment was immense, danger greater still. To aid him, Sidious gave a partner, Cato Parasiti, a Claudite able to shift skin and bone into stolen identities. Their plan was precise. Cato would impersonate a fallen Jedi, slipping past defenses, while Bane provided the brains and ruthlessness. At his side, Todo carried the chip to crack the temple systems, a ticking device that could also explode if things went wrong. Disguises, deception, and shadows cloaked their steps. Few hunters in history would dare walk through those sacred halls, but Bane did so calmly, a dusty gunslinger striding into the very heart of the Republic's might. To him, the temple was not holy, It was another fortress to breach, another contract to complete. And as his boots echoed against marble, he proved again why Cad Bane was the deadliest hunter alive. Cato Parasiti walked the temple halls in the skin of a dead Jedi, her steps calm but her eyes always shifting. The Claudice disguise held, yet something in the Force stirred. Deep within the archives, Yoda paused mid-meditation, his ears twitching, trouble whispered in the currents. Meanwhile, Cad Bane moved with precision toward the holocron vault, his breathing tubes hissing quietly beneath borrowed Jedi robes. Todo 360 followed his master's commands, carrying the Sith's slicing chip like a faithful mule. Bane's crimson eyes scanned security grids, measuring every second with cold patience. When alarm stirred faintly, he adjusted his pace, unflustered. Jedi Padawans walked past none the wiser, their heads filled with lessons of light while darkness crept among them. Cato silenced the librarian who had grown suspicious, wearing her face within seconds. As the vault loomed ahead, its defenses humming with hidden traps, Bane tilted his hat and allowed himself the faintest smirk. The galaxy's most secure chamber, repository of secrets untold, was about to open not to a Jedi, but to a gunslinger from the gutters of Duros. The holocron vault glowed with forbidden light, its grids shimmering. Todo shuffled nervously, protesting about danger, until Bane sent him toward the communication hub as a decoy. Unaware, the droid carried more than data, a hidden explosive waiting to be discovered. The Jedi swarmed him, thinking they had trapped the intruder, but in truth, he was the distraction. Inside the vault, Bane bypassed the final locks, his long fingers steady as he lifted the holocron free. The chamber's silence seemed to acknowledge his triumph. Slipping into stolen Jedi robes, he strode back through the temple as if he belonged, face hidden beneath a cowl. Cato had fallen, Todo was captured, but Bane never slowed. He walked past unsuspecting knights, carrying the greatest treasure of their order under his arm. Outside, chaos stirred as the decoy bomb was discovered. Bane didn't run, he didn't sneak. He walked straight out the front doors of the Jedi Temple, calm as ever, the holocron safe in his grasp. For him, it was just another job, yet one that carved his name deeper into legend. The true target was revealed at last, Jedi Master Bola Ropal, guardian of a crystal that held names of Force-sensitive children across the galaxy. With Separatist support, Bane prepared for the hunt. His flagship carried droid legions, fleets of fighters, enough firepower to rival small worlds. Ropal was captured alive, restrained by energy fields, his body racked with electric torture. Bane watched without sympathy, indifferent as the Jedi's screams filled the chamber. For him, it was about function, not cruelty. Across the void, Republic cruisers closed in, Jedi leading the charge. Venators thundered against his ships, but the hunter held steady. He barked orders to his droids like a seasoned general, his voice cold and commanding. The crystal remained locked, its secrets unyielding, but Bane knew pressure would break the will of any guardian. As the battle raged, he calculated exits, weighed casualties, and never doubted his own survival. Credits demanded success, and Cad Bane never accepted failure, not for Sith, not for Separatists, not for anyone. Steel groaned as the Republic boarded his ship. Jedi swept through the corridors, clones at their heels, but Bane had laid the trap. With a hiss, he cut the artificial gravity. Soldiers flailed, floating helplessly as bolts seared the air. Bane's magnetized boots clamped to the deck, giving him the advantage of a predator among prey. He fired with ruthless precision, blasters snapping, smoke curling with every shot. Droids adapted quickly, their targeting unshaken by the weightless void. Amid the chaos, Ahsoka Tano pressed forward, fearless as always. She deflected a bolt, driving it into his offhand, drawing blood. Bane hissed, but the sting only sharpened his focus. He closed the gap, grappling, boots hissing as they held him steady. A kick disarmed her, a stun jolt dropped her. The Padawan crumpled at his feet, calm as ever. Bane sealed blast doors behind him, retreating with his prize. To him, the Jedi were not warriors of light, they were obstacles, and every obstacle was just another step toward payment. Bane had Ahsoka bound, the control to the airlock in his palm. Anakin stormed forward, fury in his eyes, but the Duros hunter stayed cool. He told the Jedi that one flick of his thumb would open the hatch and send the Padawan into the void. Ahsoka pleaded with her master to let her go, yet Anakin's attachment betrayed him. With grim resolve, he unlocked the holocron, giving Bane exactly what he needed. The hunter smirked beneath his wide-brimmed hat, tucking away the device. Anakin lunged in desperation, but rocket boots flared, and Bane shot upward, vanishing into the hangar. Republic troops closed in, but they were only more tools for his disguise. Two fell to his quick draw, and within moments Bane wore clone armor, his identity hidden. He even staged a decoy death, ensuring Skywalker saw a fake Bane cut down before his eyes. Calm as ever, the real Duros slipped past, crimson eyes glinting behind a trooper's visor, already plotting his escape route. In the chaos of battle, Bane moved with perfect control. Dressed as a clone, he limped toward the medbay, selling his injury with every step. A small trail of green Duros blood was nearly overlooked, but Anakin's suspicion came a second too late. Bane lashed out, a sudden strike to Ahsoka's gut, and vanished into the hangar. He commandeered a V-19 starfighter, sliding into the cockpit as if it were his own. The craft was designed for clones, yet his hands danced across the controls with ease. Docking with a hyperspace ring, he blasted away before the Republic could react. Behind him, the flagship erupted in fire, but Bane was already gone, the holocron and crystal secured. Somewhere in the shadows of the galaxy, Darth Sidious waited, and true to his word, Cad Bane delivered the prize. The names of the galaxy's Force-sensitive children passed from his hand to the Sith, a transaction of shadows that would shape the future. Sidious's next command chilled even Bane. The Sith wanted the children themselves. To him, it was a job beneath his caliber, but credit spoke louder than pride. On Rhodia, he posed as a Jedi recruiter, luring a mother into a trance before stealing her child. The echoes of Master Ropal's death haunted the mission, but Bane ignored them, dragging the child away without hesitation. On Glee Ansel, he struck again, tearing another life from a family's embrace. Each delivery ended on Mustafar, where cold droids prepared the young captives for Sidious's plans. Bane watched only long enough to confirm the payment, uncaring what horrors awaited the children. To him, they were commodities, nothing more. When Jedi Pursuit closed in, he was already in the air, Xanadu blood streaking through hyperspace. The galaxy's future trembled in the hands of Sith, and Cad Bane had been the courier. Naboo's skies saw his downfall. Anakin and Ahsoka closed in, pressing the hunter with relentless pursuit. His rocket boots sputtered as Skywalker shorted them out, sending both hurtling into the streets below. Ahsoka's emerald blade hovered inches from his face. Surrounded at last, Cad Bane was captured. Taken aboard a Republic cruiser, he sat chained, crimson eyes glinting with disdain. When questioned, he sneered, mocking Jedi morality. "What are you gonna do, torture me?" The words cut, for what followed was something close. 3 of the Order's greatest pressed their combined will against his mind, a powerful force trick designed to break him. Pain seared his skull, his will bending, yet he feigned collapse. When they withdrew, believing him weakened, he played his role perfectly. Shaken, broken, compliant, that was the mask. And with that mask, he spun his next ploy, leading the Jedi directly into the jaws of his trap. Bane guided Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi to his remote station, promising the children. The Jedi pressed forward, alert but determined. With a flick of a switch, the chamber roared to life. Automated defenses erupted, lasers, cannons, a storm of fire that demanded both masters' full attention. Blades whirled, sparks rained, the Jedi forced into survival. And in that chaos, Cad Bane slipped away, boots echoing into hidden corridors. He launched an escape pod as the station shuddered behind him. The Jedi would save the children, yes, but his own survival was never in doubt. His legend was not in victory or defeat, it was in always walking away. For every lock, he had a key. For every trap, an exit. Even when cornered, Bane found air to breathe. And as his pod vanished into the void, his smirk lingered. The children were safe, but the hunter was free. On Coruscant, Todo 360 returned at his master's side, chirping with loyalty as if the past betrayals had never happened. Jabba the Hutt now held Bane's leash, offering a fortune if he could secure the Senate building's plans. The task began with droids. Bane targeted Senator Amidala's companions, R2-D2 and C-3PO. With calculated cruelty, he separated them. C-3PO found himself in a chamber of shocks and questions, the protocol droid's protests only amusing Bane's interrogators. Yet in the end, C-3PO knew nothing. Then R2 was captured, lured with the promise of saving his friend. The Astromech's memory banks yielded the schematics Bane wanted, the floor plans of the Republic's most sacred building. Satisfied, Bane wiped the memories of both droids and cast them back into the streets. No trace, no suspicion, only 2 confused servants wandering home. In the shadows, Bane smirked. The first step of Jabba's grand plan was complete. The second phase demanded more than blueprints. It required muscle, precision, and fear. Cad Bane assembled his deadliest strike team yet. Aurra Sing, sharp-eyed and merciless. Shahan Alama, driven by greed. Robanino, sly and unpredictable. And a cadre of IG-86 assassin droids, their photoreceptors glowing like death itself. At the heart of it all, Bane's command pulsed cold and steady. The plan was elegant: infiltrate, strike, seize, and force the Republic to its knees. In dim hangars and hidden corridors, the crew prepared weapons, checked explosives, and rehearsed the deception. Commando droids waited to don Senate Guard armor, the perfect disguise. Bane knew each detail, each escape route, each detonator wired into the Senate's East Wing. The Republic prided itself on order. Today, Cad Bane would teach them chaos. And when the Hutts called in their favor, the Duros would once again prove that credits, not codes, not causes, ruled the galaxy. The strike began in a private hangar. Republic guards moved to intercept, their warnings cut short as sniper fire pierced plastoid armor. Commando droids surged forward, efficient as executioners. Cad Bane himself snapped necks with his long hands, preserving the guards' armor for disguise. In minutes, the hangar was painted in silence and blood. The droids slipped into Senate Guard uniforms, their posture and weapons mimicking loyal defenders. Bane led them through the halls, each step deliberate, his crimson eyes burning with purpose. A grenade rolled into a chamber, ending resistance in an instant. The Republic had trained for armies, not for hunters who killed with precision and mockery. To Bane, this was theater. Theatrics won fear, and fear bent knees. By the time the Senate realized what had struck them, the East Wing was already his. Inside the Senate complex, panic blossomed. Senators scrambled, unarmed and helpless. Bail Organa urged restraint. Padme Amidala hid her defiance beneath calm, while Cad Bane stalked the chamber like a predator among prey. He opened a secure line to Chancellor Palpatine, his voice steady, almost polite. Zero the Hutt must be freed, or senators would die. Palpatine refused, and Bane cut the power, doors sealed. Lights died. An entire wing of the Republic's heart was trapped under his control. Padme caught his attention. Too young, too fierce, he mocked her beauty in the halls of power. When Anakin Skywalker charged, stripped of his lightsaber, Bane's hunters swarmed him. The Jedi was beaten, dragged in chains, thrown before the captive senators. The galaxy's greatest warrior, humbled, served as proof of Bane's dominance. Every eye in the Senate now understood. The Duros was in command, and the Republic was at his mercy. With Anakin captured and the Senate silenced, Bane tightened his grip. He demanded confirmation of Zero's release. Outside, the Slug's pardon was signed, and Zero slithered free, spitting insults as if chains had never bound him. Within the Senate, Bane planted trip mines, insurance against any last-minute heroics. Palpatine stood calm, but the Duros ignored his mask of control. For this day, Cad Bane was the Republic's master. When gunships descended and clone troopers stormed the halls, they found only traps. Mines blinked, detonators armed. Bane's mocking farewell echoed as he strode away, the senators' lives balanced on his whim. He detonated charges in the East Wing, forcing chaos even in retreat. Yet when the smoke cleared, the senators lived saved by seconds, not by Bane's mercy. He had proven his point. He had invaded the Republic's most sacred chamber and walked away untouched. The galaxy whispered his name in awe and fear. The senators were left pinned in their chamber, blinking at the trip mines Cad Bane had scattered across the walls. Calm as ever, the hunter strode away, his long coat sweeping the marble floors. Zero the Hutt was already gone, slithering free. Bane turned once more, detonator in hand. With no hesitation, he pressed the switch. The explosion roared through the East Wing of the Senate, shaking the Republic's heart. He had no need to kill them. Anakin Skywalker and the guards had already pulled the senators out, but the blast carved fear deeper into every survivor. It was reputation that mattered, not mercy. As the smoke curled above Coruscant's skyline, Bane's name echoed across the galaxy. He was the hunter who had walked into the Senate, mocked its chancellor, and walked out untouched. With a smirk beneath his hat, he vanished into the underworld, leaving the Republic humiliated and the Hutts satisfied.
The chase led to Teth. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Vos pursued Zero the Hutt through tombs and stone corridors, but fate struck first. A singer, once Zero's lover, turned on him. Her blaster ended the slug's life, and with him, the records of the Hutt Council's darkest dealings were stolen back for a price. When the Jedi arrived, they found Zero's body and Cad Bane waiting. The Duros had tracked the prize here as well, crimson eyes unflinching. He mocked the loss of his target, but offered the Jedi something else instead, their lives, if they were strong enough to take them. The wind howled over Teth's cliffs as Hunter and Jedi squared off, the mountain becoming their battlefield.
Bane struck first, his weapons a blur. Bolos whipped through the air, coiling around Vos's limbs. A burst of flame roared from his gauntlet, forcing Kenobi back. Cloak singed at the edges. Darts hissed, venom-tipped, as blaster fire rattled against stone. Vos lunged, lightsaber flashing, but Toto intercepted, metal claws clamping the Jedi's throat. Bane moved with acrobatic grace, striking and retreating, his rocket boots igniting as he danced between ledges. For a moment, it seemed he would claim a Jedi head for the Separatists, a trophy worth a fortune. Kenobi's blade deflected a shot, striking one of Bane's pistols from his grip, yet still the Hunter pressed on. Every weapon, every trick was unleashed in that duel, but against two Jedi together, even Cad Bane knew the odds. With a final snarl, he fired smoke, bolted upward, and retreated into the skies. He left Teth alive, but not victorious. By 20 BBY, Cad Bane turned capture into opportunity. Republic forces closed in, and he allowed himself to be taken, shackled, and delivered to a maximum security prison. It was no mistake, it was design. His true target was Moralo of Vol, imprisoned within. The plan: break Aval out, collect credits, and cement his role in a greater separatist scheme. But the Republic had its own design, slipping Obi-Wan Kenobi undercover as the sniper Rocco Hardeen. The disguised Jedi met Bane in the cell block, where the Hunter measured him with sharp disdain. Any fool can kill a Jedi with a sniper's bolt, he rasped. Real respect is earned face to face. The prison boiled with tension. Boba Fett picked fights, Bosk snarled, and whispers of escape filled the air. Bane sat calm, watching, waiting, knowing the riot would come. For him, it was never about chains. It was about timing. The riot erupted in fire and fists. Inmates clashed with guards, chaos spilling through every corridor. Bane moved with purpose, not frenzy, heading straight for the morgue. There, he and Evil staged their escape among corpses, slipping into the crematorium. Guards discovered their ruse too late and fell under blaster fire. The path to freedom lay open. From the smoke, they commandeered a police craft, blasting their way out of the facility. Kenobi, still cloaked as Hardeen, played his role, proving himself ruthless enough to earn their trust. Bane, suspicious, struck him for hesitating to kill a guard, yet allowed him to remain. As the craft tore free into the skylanes, the Duros smirked beneath his hat. Once again, capture had only been another trick. For Cad Bane, prisons were not cages, they were doors waiting to be unlocked. And he had just walked through another. The fugitives crashed on Nal Hutta, the swamp swallowing their stolen ship. Smoke and fire marked the wreck, but Bane cared only for erasing evidence. He scavenged what he could, stripping gear before the vessel sank beneath the muck. In the city's underbelly, the Duros replaced his lost weapons and secured a new hat, wide-brimmed, sharp, a mark of identity he would never abandon. Armor was restocked, pistols replaced, gadgets calibrated. Morlo Evol grumbled over the setback, but Bane silenced him with a glare. In bounty hunting, survival was victory, and survival meant erasing tracks. By the time Hutt security arrived to inspect, they found nothing but wreckage dissolving in acid pools. In the cantinas, whispers spread. Cad Bane had walked away from fire once again, dressed in new steel and shadow, ready for the next hunt. Their next ship carried them off-world, but now Hutta's security did not forgive intrusions. Guns blazed from orbit, and the craft spiraled into another crash. Bane emerged from the wreckage with Evil and the disguised Kenobi, smoke curling around them. Hut guards pressed in, forcing the fugitives to scatter. In the chaos, Kenobi slipped away under his false face, vanishing into the swamps. Bane fought clear with blasters snapping. Eval dragged at his heels. When they regrouped, tempers flared. Bane snarled at Rocco Hardeen for his recklessness, but the human claimed he had called in debts to keep them alive. The Duros narrowed his crimson eyes, suspicious but lacking proof. For now, he allowed the charade. The Hutts lifted bounties that weighed on them, debts called in through veiled favors. To the galaxy, Cad Bane was still free, still feared. But beneath his calm mask, mistrust simmered, ready to ignite. At a lonely refueling station, Anakin Skywalker struck. His shuttle descended like a predator, and he leapt onto Bane's vessel mid-dock. The hunter strode out, eager for the duel. "My turn to kill a Jedi," he growled, pistols flashing. Skywalker met him with fury, blade blazing. The clash tore across the platform, sparks flying, fuel tanks erupting as explosions shook the air. Kenobi, still disguised as Hardeen, fired from the ship's guns, scattering smoke to break their combat. He needed to keep Bane alive, even while Anakin sought to end him. The duel raged, blade against blaster, rage against cold calculation. When Skywalker pressed harder, Bane's rocket boots roared, carrying him into the air. But the Jedi leapt after him, and the clash carried both into fire and ruin. The ship shuddered, a crash looming as Master and Hunter battled without restraint. The crash sent wreckage spilling across a moon's surface. Bane staggered to his feet, smoke rising from scorched armor. Anakin advanced, blade raised high, every strike meant to kill. The Duros fought back with carbine fire, his movement sharp, desperate, but the Jedi's rage drove him closer. At last, Skywalker's saber cut the blaster from his hand, and Bane fell to the ground, crimson eyes wide as death loomed. The blade descended, inches from ending him. But Kenobi's interference, subtle, precise, knocked the strike aside, saving the hunter in secret. For a fleeting second, Bane glimpsed truth. Hardeen had spared him. Before he could act, Ahsoka stormed onto the field, emerald blade flashing. Her arrival split the fight, buying Eval and Bane precious seconds. Smoke charges burst, and rocket boots flared. The crew fled into the skies, leaving the Jedi behind amid smoldering ruin. Their flight ended on Sereno, Count Dooku's fortress looming like a shadow. The Sith welcomed them not with thanks, but with trials. The box. He called it an arena of shifting walls, poison gas, and lethal traps. Hunters from across the galaxy gathered, each vying for glory. Bane walked inside with cold resolve, hat low, pistols at his hips. As walls crushed and lasers snapped, he moved like smoke, guiding others, surviving where weaker hunters perished. Eval, consumed by jealousy, tried to sabotage Hardeen, handing him a blaster without enough charge. Bane intervened, snarling, "If you're going to kill him, do it like a man." Together they endured, each trial deadlier than the last. When it ended, Dooku himself declared the survivors worthy. The task, a high-profile kidnapping that would shake the Republic. For Cad Bane, it was not faith or cause, it was credits. And credits always came first. Naboo's Festival of Light drew crowds from across the galaxy, and in the shadows, Cad Bane prepared his boldest strike. Dooku's hunters deployed the holographic disguise matrix, cloaking themselves in perfect illusions. Commando droids sabotaged the shields, their sparks cutting through the city's defenses. The Chancellor himself was swapped with a decoy, the handoff staged with surgical precision. To the crowd, panic reigned as explosions thundered and blaster fire cut through celebration. Yet, as the hunters moved to deliver their prize, betrayal cracked the plan. Kenobi revealed himself, shedding Rocco Hardeen's mask. Sabers ignited, bolts flew, and confusion tore through the ranks. Bane fought fiercely, pistols blazing, rocket boots roaring, but even he could not turn the tide once Jedi stormed the square. Captured at last, shackles bound his wrists. The hunter who had walked through the Senate and mocked its leaders now stood chained, his crimson eyes burning with fury. For the first time in years, Cad Bane's legend paused, not by his choice, but by the Republic's chains. Prison walls closed once more around him, yet even here, Cad Bane's presence was undeniable. In the cafeteria, he locked eyes with a boy, Boba Fett, young but already carrying his father's shadow. The boy's boldness amused Bane. Others feared his name. Only Boba spoke bluntly, daring to trade insults and barbs. Around them, hardened criminals kept their distance, unwilling to test the Duros. Boba pressed him, demanding stories, seeking lessons. With a rare chuckle, Bane indulged, recounting the chaos of Naboo. He spoke of blaster fire, disguised matrices, and betrayal, mocking the Republic's confusion. But beneath the humor was venom, the sting of being compared to Jango Fett, a man whose legend still eclipsed his own. Boba listened, absorbing every word, while Bossk watched warily. In that prison mess hall, a bond began to form, not of friendship, but of rivalry and inheritance. The boy saw a mentor. Bane saw a potential weapon, or perhaps a future opponent worth killing. Credits came in even from behind bars. Bane had kept copies of the Jedi Temple schematics, and one such copy found its way to Separatists, who later used it in a devastating bombing. The Duros pocketed the payment, but whispers still cut him. Comparisons to Jango lingered, questions of whether Cad Bane was truly the best, or simply a man who rose when another legend had fallen. He masked the bitterness with work, reminding himself that reputation, not pride, paid the bills. Yet in quiet moments, the thought gnawed at him. To surpass Jango, he would need to shape the future. And so he looked again at Boba Fett not as a child, but as the closest thing to Jango reborn. Training him, testing him, might settle the question once and for all. Through the boy, Bane could confront the shadow of the Mandalorian, proving himself as either the master who made Fett great or the gunslinger who ended him. Tatooine's dunes stretched endlessly as Cad Bane and young Boba rode dewbacks beneath a burning Sunday. Their mission, rescue a child stolen by Tusken raiders. But Bane, ever pragmatic, explained that to find the camp, they would first need to be captured. He let the Tuskens close in, bolos and Gaddafi sticks whirling, while Boba fought with reckless fury. Raiders fell, but in time both hunters were overwhelmed, bound and dragged into the desert night. In captivity, Bane remained calm, his crimson eyes calculating every detail, the number of guards, the shaman's baby crate dragon skull, the layout of the camp. Boba seethed, bristling with youthful arrogance, but Bane silenced him with a glare. Patience. Survival buys opportunity. When the moment came, the Duros struck fast, unlocking chains and seizing weapons. Blaster fire cracked, Tuskens fell, and the child was freed. For Boba, it was proof of strength. For Bane, it was a lesson. Victory belonged to those who played the long game. In the aftermath of the raid, Boba grew restless. He gathered allies, shaping them into a crew he called the Crate's Claw, dreaming of honor and codes like Mandalorians of old. Bane watched with disdain, protecting the weak. Speaking of loyalty, such ideals, he warned, were a quick way to end up dead. Tension grew between master and student, the boy's defiance sharpening into challenge. At last, words gave way to a duel. On the sands, they faced each other, Boba in Beskar armor, twin blasters drawn, Cad Bane with his unmatched speed and cunning. The shots rang out, sand exploding with each miss and graze. Boba's armor saved him where others would have fallen, a bolt denting his helmet forever. But the boy's return fire struck true, searing Bane's head and leaving him scarred. Both survived, both wounded, neither victorious. Yet the duel left its mark on them, and the galaxy, for the first time, Cad Bane had been matched, and Boba Fett carried the proof in the steel of his helm. The Crate's Claw rose from the sands, Boba Fett's vision of a crew bound by loyalty and purpose. But Cad Bane scorned such ideals. Around the fire, he mocked the talk of protecting the weak, spitting the words like poison. "That's the quickest way to die poor," he growled, crimson eyes flashing. Tension rippled between master and student, the old Duros pushing, the boy refusing to bend. Their dispute boiled into challenge. Under the twin suns of Tatooine, Boba donned Beskar armor and drew twin pistols. Across from him, Bane stood tall, hands poised above holsters. Silence stretched, then blasters sang. The duel burned across the dunes, sand erupting with every missed bolt. At last, Bane's shot slammed into Boba's helmet, leaving a deep scar in the iron. The boy staggered, but his return fire struck true, grazing Bane's skull. When the smoke cleared, both still stood, wounded but alive. The duel gave Boba his dent, Bane his cranial plating, and both a place in legend. Order 66 shattered the galaxy, and Cad Bane's trade dimmed with it. No longer were Jedi common prey. No longer did the credits flow as before. The hunter withdrew, working less, demanding only the largest payouts. He spent his days in shadows, reputation enough to keep him feared. Younger hunters filled the void, Dengar, Embo, Sugi, but Bane remained cold and calculating, waiting for contracts worth his name. The Justifier carried him across empty skies, his hat tilted low, crimson eyes watching as the Empire spread its grip. For the Duros, it was no longer about chasing every bounty. It was about choosing battles that paid like empires themselves. Though the galaxy moved on, he endured. His legend aged, but his blasters remained sharp. Cad Bane, the old gunslinger, would never vanish quietly. When Kaminoan whispers reached him, Bane took the job. The target was Omega, a child unlike any other. At a lonely outpost, he faced Hunter of the Bad Batch. "I've taken down plenty of clones," he sneered, pistols raised. The duel was swift and brutal. Hunter fell beneath a bolt to the chest, his commando armor sparking, consciousness fading. Omega screamed as Bane bound her, tossing her into his ship's cell. Negotiations followed, credits promised by Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino. Bane demanded premium payment. He had the prize, and he intended to collect. Omega, however, was not helpless. She coaxed Todo with kind words, exploiting the droid's frustrations. And soon the loyal assistant was sabotaged. Still, Bane pressed on, steering the Justifier toward Boravio. Unaware, another hunter was already waiting in the wings. The floating ruins of Boravio echoed with storms. Bane marched Omega toward the handoff, blaster at her back, only to find Tan dead on the deck. From the shadows stepped Fennec Shand, her eyes sharp, her aim steady. "She's not yours!" she hissed. Bolts lit the air. Grenades shook the platform. Credits scattered in an explosion, tumbling into the abyss. Bane snarled, fighting with every trick, flamethrower, darts, rocket boots. Fennec matched him move for move, acrobatics twisting around his strikes. A mine erupted beneath his boots, hurling him into steel. Pain seared his body, crimson eyes dimming as he slumped. For the first time in years, Cad Bane lay broken, his prey slipping through his fingers. Omega fled in a Kaminoan pod, while Fennec vanished into the storm. Todo chirped desperately over the wreckage, but the Duros did not rise. His legend, scarred, endured, but his grip on the galaxy had weakened. Cad Bane's recovery was slow, his cranial plate the only thing that kept him alive. Though beaten, his reputation persisted. Whispers of Boravio spread across cantinas. The Duros had lost, yet survived. He faded further into the Outer Rim, taking fewer jobs, always watching as younger hunters carved their place. But his shadow remained. To some, he was still the fastest gun in the galaxy. To others, he was a relic, a ghost of a dead age. Yet Bane himself knew the truth. Every scar, every dent, every failure was another layer of armor. He had faced Jedi, Sith, clones, and rivals, and still walked away. Time was catching him, but until the end, he remained Cad Bane, the coldest name in the underworld.
The rooftops of Boravio burned with chaos as Cad Bane and Fennec Shand clashed again. Bolos cracked through the storm, rapping and snapping, while Bane's flamethrower belched fire across the slick platforms. Omega darted between them, her small frame nearly lost in the crossfire. Fennec pressed forward, agile as a shadow, and Bane countered with brute force, rocket boots hurling him across ledges. Sparks and fire lit the night until one perfect strike sent Bane tumbling over a ledge, his hand clawing at the railing before igniting his boots to survive. In that instant, Omega broke free, racing toward a Kaminoan pod. Bane roared in fury, Todo scrambling at the Justifier's controls. But when he reached the hangar, smoke curled from the engines sabotaged. The ship refused to fly. Omega escaped into the storm, while Fennec vanished into shadow. For the first time in years, Cad Bane stood defeated, his prize gone, his ship crippled.
Years passed, and the Duros faded into legend. His name was whispered in cantinas, carved into graffiti, painted as a phantom gunslinger. Young hunters spoke of him like a myth, the fastest draw the galaxy had ever seen. Yet as the Empire tightened its grip, his contracts grew fewer, his jobs less frequent. No one recorded him working for Vader, and the Hutts found new enforcers. He lingered in the Outer Rim, taking only the most profitable contracts, vanishing after each. In back alleys and smuggler dens, his wide-brimmed hat remained a symbol, a warning painted on walls. Every gunslinger has his day. Some claimed he had retired, others swore he still hunted. Cad Bane himself cared little for the rumors. His legend had taken on a life of its own, one more enduring than any contract. By 4 ABY, the galaxy shifted. Palpatine fell, the Empire fractured, and the Hutt Council was shattered. In their place, the Pike Syndicate rose, dealing spice across the rim. Cad Bane, older but unbroken, sought a place in their court. His crimson eyes still cut through smoke, his pistol still fast as lightning. The Pikes valued ruthlessness, and Bane was the perfect enforcer. He walked their halls with silent menace, the years etched into his scarred face, his voice still carrying the weight of death. In him, they found a relic that still killed cleanly, still frightened rivals into silence. The galaxy had changed, but Cad Bane adapted, as he always had. With credits in his pocket and the Pikes behind him, he once again had purpose in a galaxy ruled by syndicates. 9 years after Endor, the desert son of Tatooine bore witness to his return. Cad Bane walked into Freetown with the slow stride of a predator, his long coat trailing dust. Marshal Cobb Vanth stood in his way, hand hovering above his blaster. The crowd tensed, whispers dying in the heat. Bane's voice was calm, his words a threat wrapped in velvet. "Whatever Fett's paying you, I'll match it. Just stay out of the way." Vanth's deputy twitched, and in that moment, Bane's pistols roared. The lawman fell with a bolt to the chest. The deputy cut down before he could even aim. Silence fell over the town, broken only by Bane's cold command. The Pikes owned Tatooine, and as long as the spice flowed, the people would live. Then he turned and vanished into the desert, leaving only corpses and fear behind. The war for Mos Espa brewed, and Cad Bane played his part with cruel precision. He knew Boba Fett's history, knew the rage buried in him. Meeting face to face, Bane's words were sharp as blades. He revealed the truth of the Tusken massacre the clan Boba had called family was slaughtered, and the Pikes had blamed a speeder gang. He watched Fett's fury rise, knowing anger would blind him. Around them, soldiers tensed, guns cocked, but neither hunter moved. The past hung between them like smoke, master and student, rivals, killers, bound by fate. Bane leaned closer, voice low. "You're still just a boy, pretending to be a leader, and now you know the truth. Let's finish this." The duel did not ignite then, but the fuse was lit. For Cad Bane, it was the perfect provocation, a chance to end Fett once and for all. Mos Espa burned in chaos as Scorpionic Annihilator droids thundered through the streets. Their shields blazed, cutting down allies and citizens alike. Fett's Rancor roared, smashing one of the metal titans into rubble, but the machines pressed on, their cannons blazing. From the shadows, Cad Bane stepped forward, unshaken. The old Duros raised his gauntlet, spewing flames across the beast's hide. The Rancor shrieked, blinded by fire, stumbling through buildings as Bane forced it back. Citizens scattered, the hunters circled, and in the heart of the city, only two figures remained steady. Boba Fett stood at one end of the square, Gadurfi eye slung across his back, blaster steady. At the other end, Cad Bane tipped, his wide-brimmed hat, crimson eyes burning. The city roared with war, but for them, the moment narrowed. Decades of rivalry had led to this street. Mentor and student, legend and heir. The final duel was at hand. At a lonely refueling station, Anakin Skywalker struck. His shuttle descended like a predator, and he leapt onto Bane's vessel mid-dock. The hunter strode out, eager for the duel. "My turn to kill a Jedi," he growled, pistols flashing. Skywalker met him with fury, blade blazing. The clash tore across the platform, sparks flying, fuel tanks erupting as explosions shook the air. Kenobi, still disguised as Hardeen, fired from the ship's guns, scattering smoke to break their combat. He needed to keep Bane alive, even while Anakin sought to end him. The duel raged, blade against blaster, rage against cold calculation. When Skywalker pressed harder, Bane's rocket boots roared, carrying him into the air. But the Jedi leapt after him, and the clash carried both into fire and ruin. The ship shuddered, a crash looming as Master and Hunter battled without restraint. The Gadurfii staff slid from Fett's back, its carved wood catching the light. Bane sneered, raising his pistols. Your father's blood still runs through you, don't pretend you're different. With sudden ferocity, Boba surged forward. Instead of another blaster duel, he closed the gap, bringing the Tusken weapon down in an arc Bane had never trained against. The staff shattered Bane's aim, disarming one pistol, then the other. Sparks flew as Beskar clashed against Durasteel. Bane staggered, knocked off his footing as Fett struck again, staff pressing against his chest. The Duros snarled, stunned to be caught by a move outside his rhythm. Consider this my final lesson, he hissed, but Fett's blade edge of the staff drove him down, pinning him to the sands. Crimson eyes glared up at his student. For the first time, Cad Bane had been bested not by speed, but by the weight of ideals he had mocked. The city held its breath as Cad Bane fell. Boba Fett loomed above him, staff raised, chest heaving with rage and memory. For a moment, silence reigned. Bane's chest monitor blinked weakly, a soft beeping beneath the dust. The old hunter chuckled through blood. You've always been a killer, boy. Don't lie to yourself. But the Gadurfii struck one last time, and the Duros went still. His wide-brimmed hat rolled across the stones. Its shadow fading in the sunday, Fett lowered his weapon, victorious but heavy with the cost. Around them, the battle raged, but for most Espa's people, the duel was already legend. The beeping from Bane's gear continued faintly, a hidden device humming beneath his coat. If rescue came quickly, survival was not impossible. But to the crowd, to Fett, to the galaxy, Cad Bane was gone. The last chapter of an old gunslinger's life had been written in the dust. Cad Bane's story did not end on Tatooine alone. In years to come, his name was retold by pirates and smugglers, each version grander than the last. Hondo Ohnaka, ever the storyteller, painted Bane as a rival and occasional partner, weaving his legend into cantina tales. Graffiti etched his hat and pistols across underworld walls, a myth to new hunters who would never match him. Yet the truest remembrance lay elsewhere. The Wills, keepers of the galaxy's fate, marked Cad Bane as a mover of history. Not a Jedi, not a Sith, but a man who shaped eras through credits, cunning, and sheer will. From the gutters of the Descent ghetto to duels with Jedi and crime lords, from shaping Boba Fett's rise to nearly breaking the Republic, his shadow touched every corner of the galaxy. Every gunslinger has his day, and Cad Bane's day had spanned decades. His legacy endured,